Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. My name's AJ, and I'm your host for today. I've got some interesting subjects I want to talk to you about. And this oil price cap thing is probably the most stupidest idea I've ever heard in my whole life. I'm going to be talking about it and telling you my thoughts about it. And I'm also going to be talking about why this could destroy the final London financial insurance market in London, and this could be the final nail in the coffin. And the London insurance market has been gradually going down over the years, but I think this will finally take it over the edge. So I'm going to be talking about that as well. So before I start talking about this subject, I just want to ask you guys a favor. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, help the algorithm whichever way you can. Really helps the channel and also really helps me from kind of keeps me going basically, because without your support I just wouldn't do this channel. Simple as that. So your support's very important to me. And those who really want to kind of support the channel, which will allow me to do this full time, I can start showing my face, and I can, start inviting some more amazing guests and things like that. Then you'll have to support the channel, and I don't need many left, probably around 6 or 7. So if you can support the channel, it'll be really appreciated. So anyway, let's carry on with the show. So this Russian oil price cap is probably the most stupidest idea I've ever heard in my whole entire life. I mean, Janet Yellen, I should say, initially came up with the idea, and I can see like Janet Yellen basically sitting around a round table with Biden, Blinken, and the rest of the gang, and they were talking about how they can destroy the Russian war machine, how they can stop Russia from making money, how they can destroy Russia's economy, because all of these sanctions haven't really worked. So Janet Yellen basically put her hand up and said, "Why don't we put an oil price cap on Russian oil? That will fix it." And Biden's like, "Yeah, what a great idea, Janet. Well done. I love it." So Biden basically sold that idea to Ursula and the rest of the European puppets, and they went along with it. So I'll tell you something about this oil price cap. It's never going to affect USA whatsoever, because everybody knows USA is pretty much self-sufficient when it comes to oil and gas. They don't need Russian oil. However, the Europeans do. Europeans do need Russian oil, and they do need Russian gas. They are not. They do not produce oil and gas like the Americans do, like the Middle East, like China, even for example. But taking Russian gas out the picture and now taking Russian oil out the picture, this is going to completely leave Europeans in a really bad state. So I just cannot believe these Europeans have basically gone along with this stupid idea by Janet Yellen. And again, they've basically shot themselves in the foot. They've shot themselves in the foot many times already, especially with all of these sanctions bouncing like a boomerang effect, bouncing and hitting them back on their faces. Um, these sanctions have never worked. All of their sanctions they've put on Russia have not worked one bit. In fact, they have absolutely destroyed or destroying the European economy, European industry. People's lives are becoming a misery. People are dying because they can't afford heating bills, they can't afford to keep warm. Some people are dying because they can't afford to eat. So it's all causing all sorts of mayhem around Europe, and I just can't believe these European leaders are doing it again, and they're falling onto their swords yet again. What makes it worse is you had certain European leaders, we're talking about the Polish Prime Minister, I think the Estonian leader and Latvian leader, and I believe one or two other countries as well, they wanted to put the price cap to like $30. And the current price for crude oil is set to 75, 80. And I believe Russia sells it to China and India for discount. So it goes around 60 in their markets, $60 I'm talking about. And I just can't believe the cheek of some of these leaders who are basically trying to put this price cap to $30 or something ridiculous. Do these leaders do they not understand how commodity trading works in this world? The basic concepts of buying and selling. This is just basic knowledge, guys. This is basic knowledge. If someone knocks on your door and says, "Oh, I'm here to buy your property for $60. You're going to sell it to me." What are you going to do? Are you going to sell it to them, or are you going to shut the door in their face? This is exactly what's happened, and it's like Ursula turning up outside my door saying, "Oh, we set a price cap for your property for $60, so you need to sell it to us for $60." And you got the Polish Prime Minister standing behind us saying, "No, no, no, she meant $30. $30. It's not $60." I would just shut the door in their face and never to open it ever again. This is basic buying and selling, buying commodities. The price is not set by a country because that's how much they want to set the price cap for. The price is set based on, you know, demand and supply. So if oil is in high demand, obviously the price will go up. If oil is in low demand, or if there is more supply than demand, then obviously the price will go down. And that's how the market works. It's not just oil we're talking about. It's the same thing with metals, with gold, with fertilizers, with gas. Any commodities out there. That's how the market works. You can't just set a price for something and expect you to pay exactly what that price you set as a price cap. It's just never going to work. It's never ever going to work. I mean, these leaders who don't understand anything about commodity trading or how the real world works, and I just can't believe these guys are leaders. I mean, do they not have advisors which kind of advise them about how basic buying and selling works and why this is a crap idea? Do they not have any advisors to tell them these things? It's almost like they have yes men all around them. Yes men, when they want to place sanctions on Russia, they have yes men all around them, or put, they're all kind of raising their hands up in the air saying, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, put these sanctions on Russia. Yeah, do it. Yeah, yeah, we're the best. We're the best." It's absolutely ridiculous, guys. I mean, don't take my word for it. There's loads of economists all out there. If you just have to Google, will oil price cap work? And you're going to see all of these leaders from the United States, from Europe, saying this is never going to work. This is an absolutely hideous idea. It's a real stupid idea. And it's not just me, don't take my word for it. There's, real people with real brains, real common sense who are all saying the same thing. It's just never going to work. I just only people that think this going to work are the European leaders who actually place this oil price cap, while everyone else thinks it's never going to work. I mean, come on. It's the same people who placed all these sanctions on Russia. I mean, this has never worked. And why do they think that this oil price cap thing will work as well? Crazy, crazy. So you can see Russia still has plenty of cards to play. They haven't played any cards yet, but you can tell that, right now the oil prices are kind of stable. They're not going up, they're actually going down. So Russia has still got cards to play. They haven't played these cards yet, but when they do, they could cause major ripples in the oil market. Already, Russia has said that they're not going to sell oil to anyone that implements the price cap, but they have plenty of other cards to play. There are certain people in the industry who think that Russia could actually peg the gold into their oil. Many other cards they can play. They haven't played them yet, but it'll be interesting to see what they do over the next few months. And you can see here, Western price cap is now disrupting the global oil markets. And like I said, China, India are still carry on buying as usual. They haven't implemented any oil price caps. Asia are still buying as usual as well. That's not going to affect them. The only people that this is going to affect are the Europeans. Rest of the world is pretty much not affected because they're not using any of this price cap. The only people who agreed to this current price cap are mainly the G7 countries and the collective West mainly. And you can see here, China is ignoring the West Russian oil price cap, and so is India as well. So these countries are just kind of going to carry on business as usual. They don't really care what the West does. The G7 thinks they can dictate what they do to the rest of the world, and they just don't have any kind of power anymore, guys. Whatever they do, the world just laughs at them. And you can see here oil prices are actually going down rather than up. This is because there is a recession happening around the world. And you can see recession fears are hitting global demand. The Western world, especially USA and UK, the growth rates are very, very low, especially Europe, and you can see, that Europe is deindustrializing because of the lack of gas and many other reasons, which I'm not going to go into right now. But there is a major recession going on in the West, and obviously this is affecting oil prices. Oil prices actually going down. And plus, you have to take into effect that China is still under severe lockdown, and even though they have kind of relaxed a lot of these lockdown rules, a lot of people are having COVID infections, especially with Omicron. It kind of spreads much faster than the original Delta variant. So a lot of people are still having it. So they're not out of the woods yet. They're not in full capacity just yet. So this is why oil price is actually going down. So they're not going to start going up again until China is back in full swing again, when the economy is back into full speed. Then oil prices will start go up then. But right now, it's still going to be going down. So there's a bank called Saxo Bank, and he kind of made some predictions for 2023, and they think that the gold will probably go as high as $3,000. So right now it's about 1,200 or something along those lines, or probably a bit more. And they think it's going to go all the way up to $3,000, and this is because they are kind of predicting that the US dollar is going to crash next year. With all of these Fed hikes that the Fed is doing with the interest rates, it's going to completely crash the economy. They're going to be in severe major recession, and the whole world is going through a de-dollarization process as well. China's dumping dollars, Japan's dumping dollars, um, India's dumping dollars. Many countries around the world are dumping the dollars because they know keeping the dollar is basically destroying their own currency, and keeping the dollar in your central bank is really bad news. And you can see what the US has done. They've basically weaponized the dollar. They've weaponized it. They've taken money from the central banks, and you have to look at countries such as Afghanistan, Russia, Iran. If you keep any dollars, the chances are they're going to be confiscated if the US don't like you. So a lot of countries are now dumping their dollars because they don't want to take that risk, and this is going to cause gold prices to go up next year. But also, there's other things that's going on around the world as well. There's obviously the inflation. There's obviously the war that's happening in Ukraine. Many factors are being taken into account. And Russian oil shipments to Europe is already dwindling. Russia is not being affected by all of this. They are sending huge record amounts of oil to China, and they don't have to ship it to China, by the way. They have like railways which are linking Russia to China, and they can be transported to China very, very cheap. and plus they don't. China doesn't have to buy this oil in dollars. They can buy it in yuan or rubles, so they avoid all of these. You know, keeping the dollars in their central banks and stuff. And plus, because they share a huge border between the two countries, transporting oil between the two countries are very, very cheap compared to if it comes from the Middle East, you have to obviously pay for shipping and things like that. So for China to get it from Russia is very, very cheap. So the Russians are saying that these Western sanctions won't stop demand for Russian oil. And they are right, because when you think about it, okay, the world is not the same as it was 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. Think about it. 50 years ago, there was no rise of China at the time. There was no rise of India. I mean, look at China now compared to what it was 50 years ago, right? China now is now the second largest economy in the world. It's now the major factory of the world as well, and its demand for energy has skyrocketed from from early percentage, maybe single digit percentage, now into kind of huge high double figures compared to what it was 50 years ago. And the same has happening to India as well. Same is happening to Southeast Asia, ASEAN countries. Same that's happening to even Africa as well. Africa is even developing. So basically, the demand for oil is actually increasing, and also South America is also developing as well very fast. So the demand for oil, demand for gas, demand for energy is increasing throughout the world. It's not like it was 50 or 100 years ago, where it's mainly the industrialized nations that were basically burning the oil and gas. I'm talking about Britain, United States, majority of Europe. But now the whole world needs more energy, whole world needs more oil as it becomes more industrialized. And this is why, the demand for Russian oil is never going to stop. This will always stay there. In fact, the demand for oil is actually going to go up. And this is why the cost of oil has gone up over the past, 5 to 10 years compared to what it was before, because the super growth that you seeing in China, seeing in India, seeing in ASEAN countries, it's all mainly happened in the last 10 to 20 years, and this basically corresponds to the increase in global oil prices because there's more demand for oil. And also you got to count the fact that oil is not a limitless energy. The oil is running out, and it's probably going to last for another 50 years or so. A lot of the oil fields that a lot of countries have been drilling, especially in UK. UK, we've been drilling North Sea oil as well for over like 50, 60 or 70 years even, and most of it is running out, and same throughout the world. So throughout the world, people, countries like Saudi Arabia are finding new oil fields, and places like Iran, they're finding new oil fields as well. Even China, they're finding new oil fields. But this is a very finite resource, and eventually, within the next 50 years, things will run out. In fact, the demand for oil is going to get higher and higher and higher. And a lot of these countries who are just starting to be industrialized, they will need more and more oil to kind of to feed that economy of theirs. So now we're going to come to the insurance part. And you can see from this article how the Ukraine war is benefiting the Russian insurance and pushing up insurance premiums everywhere. So a lot of people don't realize that the global insurance market, number one market for shipping and oil and stuff, is actually the London market, especially Lloyd's insurance. And they have been basically insuring ships to kind of deliver oil throughout the world. And London has been the capital for this insurance market. And I think they make around 110 billion per year. So this has been going down over the past few years, especially during Brexit. A lot of the insurance markets are starting to move to other cities like Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam, and also a lot of Russian insurance have been taking up a lot of business as well since the war in Ukraine. So you can see here how Russian insurance are basically building up. And also, a lot of people don't realize that Chinese insurers are have also been building up as well, and these have been becoming more and more important in terms of providing insurance to Far Eastern ships in and out of going out in and out of the Gulf Coast and things like that. And you can see here from this article here the London global insurance market, reinsurance market, falls 2% in a decade. And this was in 26th of January 2022. So, as you know, a lot has happened since 26th January 2022. Obviously, the Ukraine war and all these sanctions are placed on Russia and things like that. So, already before the war, the London insurance market had had already been affected. And now, since the war, is going to be affected even more, and all of this is going to be basically accelerating its demise. And you can see here, despite being the largest global insurance market in the world, the London market faces challenges. While primary business has expanded minimally over the past decade, its reinsurance market share has shrunk by 2%. And that's going to go down even more now compared to what it was in January. And you can see here, London is the home of the largest global insurance market in the world, bringing in a huge 110 billion income per year. In fact, this is larger than the next three competitors, Bermuda, Switzerland, and Singapore combined. And things have changed obviously since then. Now you have the rise of Chinese insurers, the Russian insurers as well. Also, there's Indian companies offering insurance, and a lot of Gulf countries are now offering insurance as well. And you can see here, at the same time, the marketplace contributes 23% of city's gross domestic product and 37 billion a year to UK's GDP, and that's been growing in recent years. So we are in a very strong position in a thriving market. So the problem is, guys, this is not the case anymore. And you can see here, recently there's a lot of Chinese insurance companies who have been coming into the stock market, and this is the latest one. They have welcomed China Pacific Insurance Group Limited, and this company, the code is CPIC, raises 1.8 billion in the London Stock Exchange. And if you look at the kind of share price, and you can see since November this year, the share prices have been going up and up and up. And there's a reason for that. No company is going to have suddenly this kind of, spike in the share price for nothing. The reason they're having this price spike is because they are getting more and more business, and they are chipping away at the London market as well. And a lot of Russian companies are also taking a lot of market share from the London insurance market as well. So Europeans have been basically chipping away at the London market for years, ever since Brexit. And you can see articles such as this: Paris overtakes London as Europe's largest stock market. And then you have articles such as this as well: Amsterdam overtakes London as Europe's top share trading centre. And then you have articles such as this: EU blasted over City of London power grab to move banks to Frankfurt. And during COVID, a lot of people were working from home, and a lot of people didn't travel. But since COVID policies have been relaxed, a lot of banks now are forced to send their employees to Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam. They are forcing people to relocate. EU is forcing it as well. So they don't have that excuse of COVID anymore. So this year, especially, a lot more bankers are moving across the river, across the pond, I would say. And if you go to central London nowadays, I mean, I grew up in London, and I've always been working in the city. I've been working for big banks throughout my time. And when I was first working in the city, the place was thriving, absolutely thriving. People with business suits walking around everywhere. After end of each day, people used to go to the local pubs and bars, and these pubs and bars used to be packed. Um, it was really thriving. Businesses were thriving. All the city offices were booked, and they all fully manned. All of them were rented. But now, if you go down the city, if you walk down the city, it's like a ghost town. Ghost town. Most people are either working from home, or most people have been relocated to other cities around Europe. Most of the offices are now empty. Most businesses that used to kind of be thriving around that area have now been shut down. And if you walk along some of the pubs and bars that used to be thriving before, now they're pretty much empty. So there's a major problems now in London compared to what it was like 20 or 30 years ago. It's a big change, guys, huge change, and things are not going to get any better for London at all. Anyway, to understand how the global insurance market works, and you just gotta have to look at the map. And most of the shipping routes are basically coming out of China. So you have the South China Sea, you have the East China Sea as well, and it's going to the Indian Ocean as well. And it's all going into the Middle East. And this area here is Saudi Arabia. Then you have Qatar, Oman, you have Iran here, you have Iraq over here, you have Kuwait. So most of it is coming through the Strait of Hormuz, it's called, and it's going to come through around India. It's going to go straight down the Strait of Malacca and into China. And this is the majority of the shipping routes are around the world. Obviously, you've got the major oil producers in Saudi Arabia, Middle East as well, Iraq, Qatar, Iran, Russia, and the biggest markets are China and India. So Europe is pretty much left out. So these countries which are along this area, you have the Russia, you have China, you have India, you have Middle East. If they trade amongst each other, they can ship amongst each other. They do not need the West. They do not need Europe. They do not need London to provide them insurance. They can do their own insurance because of their close proximity in terms of its geography. And it's just common sense, really. So if China and Russia wants to trade with each other, they don't need global insurance coming from London. They can have their own insurance. If India and Russia want to do it, they don't need insurance coming from London. They can have their own insurance. Same way if Middle East, if Iran wants to trade with China, if Saudi Arabia wants to trade with China as well. And I believe that these were some of the things that were discussed when President Xi went to Saudi Arabia. They wanted to kind of sort out the insurance between the two countries. They wanted to sort out the currency they sell oil to, and few other things that were agreed, and loads of projects that were agreed as well. And you see, in terms of the geography, they do not need the West, they do not need London, and this is why London's insurance market, starting next year, will probably be going down. They pretty much have shot themselves in the foot with this oil price cap, and London has been chipping away throughout the years, especially after Brexit, and now it's going to be the final nail in the coffin, really. So let me know what you guys think. Is this the end of the London insurance market? I think it is, and this is probably going to be the end of Europe as well. Europe is already deindustrializing, and they've pretty much shot themselves in the foot again when it comes to oil. Russia doesn't really need Europe, to be honest. It's the other way around. As you know, Europe has been using Russia for cheap oil and gas throughout the years to build up the industry to be competitive with the rest of the world. But now it doesn't have cheap gas. It doesn't have cheap oil. So the industry is not going to be competitive anymore. You won't be able to compete with countries such as Asia, China, even India, even the United States, to be honest. And it's going to be the end of Europe, and it's going to go back into the Middle Ages. And there was a time once in the world when China was the number one economy, India was the number two economy in the world. And looks like history is now repeating itself. Things are going back into order as they were. Europe at the time was in the Dark Ages. The only time Europe became strong is after the Industrial Age, and when industry was thriving in Europe. This is when they became thirsty for more territory and for more resources, and that's why they went to kind of uh, colonize India, take over Hong Kong, and many other parts of the world as well. So looks like history is now repeating itself, and things are going back to the normal state of the world, when China was number one, India was number two, and things are going back to how they were. Anyway, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for now.